two guys and a gal, talking about movies, two guys and a gal, talking about movies, two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies, and you know, they are really groovy, two guys and a gal, talking about movies, two guys and a gal, talking about movies, two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies, and we know they are really groovy.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, no matter where you are in the world, and welcome to another live edition of Two Guys and a Gal Talking About Movies. And if you're here on the replay, we want to welcome you. Please comment and please follow us on all of our platforms. Now, for tonight, we are going to be exploring a director who was absolutely an A-lister. He came out in the 70s, and you're guaranteed to have seen at least one of his films, but you might not be as familiar with his name. His name is William Friedkin. That's right, William Friedkin, and he did some freaky stuff. He was known for being cutting edge with his editing, gritty, amoral stories. He wanted to sort of make people think. There wasn't always a perfect linear process. So these are very artistic films, and at the same time, he brought a lot of energy and revitalization into genres such as horror and thrillers. So let's find out more about him. Your two guys are the experts and the guides. So here is Manny Zamora, of course, and Rory Penland to talk Friedkin. We're going to freaking talk the
We're
Friedkin.
gonna freaking talk about freaking, eh? And that's how he sounds.
Yeah, this freaking guy over here.
This freaking guy over.
Yeah.
So why did we
Freaking
choose
director.
him, Manny? What was it? What is it about Friedkin that gets you freaking excited?
Well, I grew up with a lot of his movies. I saw a lot of his movies first run, and it's an interesting era, the '70s and early '80s. A lot of the directors were coming out of television. They were starting to experiment, trying to get away from the old Hollywood system, trying to get away from the old way of telling stories. And also, there was, of course, the sort of loosening of a lot of they were able, with the new rating system that started to come out. They were able to tell stories that they couldn't tell before. There was a lot less censorship in Hollywood, or in Hollywood movies and so forth. They could be a little bit more violent. They could be a bit more explicit in a lot of ways. And so Friedkin was part of that group of maverick directors who said, "Hey, you know what? We've escaped we've escaped the confines of television. We don't have to deal with censors as much, and let's tell these hard hitting stories. Let's actually go, instead of filming on the back lot of some Hollywood studio. Let's go to the streets of New York, or wherever, and show the grit and the grime and everything else as things are, and so." And I just really like a lot of his movies, and yeah, like Renee said, it's not one of those names that immediately comes to mind. It's like a Spielberg or a Hitchcock, where if you ask somebody on the street, "Hey, name 5 Hitchcock movies," they'll probably be able to do that, or Spielberg movies, or he never became a celebrity. As much as a kind of celebrity name, but he, produced some really interesting.
But he
interesting
did
films
it
in his career.
his way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I go to movies to escape real life and the sleaziness and the nastiness that we can see in real life. I want to be excited, adventure, love. I want the good guys to win in the end. I want the bad guys to get their comeuppance. So Yeah, William Friedkin, I get what you're doing. I do, but wow. For my money, what? And again, Sidney Lumet, we had this conversation about him doing the same thing. I don't want the happy ending with the bow on it, and I'm going to do whatever the hell I want because that's who I am. I'm Sidney Lumet, and I'm William Friedkin. Gosh darn it, and I'll defend whatever I make. And that's what he did. He spent a lot of his life defending his movies,
Mm-hmm.
because he decided not to go that route. And
yeah, there were a few
some of his
that,
movies are fantastic. They really are,
yeah.
despite the fact that, you don't get the happy ending in a lot of them. And a couple you do. And those are the ones that made my top 5 list, I mean, so, yeah.
But you don't
Again,
like to have to do a lot of heavy lifting as an audience member, right? You don't like to sit there and like the morally ambiguous, sort of the shadowy, non-linear plots kind of bother you because you're getting stressed out. You're not really getting to engage
No,
in
he's a
escapism,
very,
right?
very accomplished filmmaker, and he's very slick in how he presents. But um, again, sometimes um, you root for characters for a reason, and you want them to survive the film. We'll get into specifics a little later on, but again, spoiler alert: if you haven't seen these freaking films, you probably don't want to watch this. But again, there's a couple on this list that I guarantee you've probably seen, like he said, because they're classics. They're like in the top 100 films of all time.
Exactly. Yeah. So Renee, let me ask you: how many of these films have you seen?
I've seen, let me think. Let me go down the roster here of you guys. I'm not going to say what you guys chose. I've seen about 3 of his films. So not a lot of his films, but of course the ones that I've seen I know really well because they're so ingrained in the culture. And that's why we're saying, like, even if you guys don't recognize his name, you're instantly going to think of a trope that he sort of invented, or you're going to have nightmares about one of his movies, right? I guarantee you. And they're the type of movies that stay with you. That's what I'll say. Even if you've only seen like 2 or 3 of his films, they're the type that you feel like you're very acquainted with his body of work because he's an intense filmmaker. He's somebody who makes you think, and because of that heavy energy that he brings, you kind of take it with your whole life, whether you like it or not. It's like a Kubrick thing, right?
Now, don't feel bad about only seeing 3. I had only seen 4. Okay. And I'm going to say right out of the gate, and I'm a movie guy. I mean, I see a lot of movies. Even says so. Well, I am. But I'm sorry to say, I'm going to admit right out of the gate, I could not watch Sorcerer. So if that's on your list, I'm sorry that it's not on my list. I could not watch it. I couldn't get a copy of it. I couldn't find a copy of it that didn't charge money. And I'm, I'm cheap. So, but I did see some movies that I hadn't seen, 5 or 6 of them. And we'll talk about those along with the movies. And again, 2 of them that I haven't seen made my top 5 list. So
that's cool.
So, so I saw 2 good movies this weekend or this past week that I really enjoyed by him that made my top 5 list that I'd never seen before. So,
excellent. Well,
one more thing before we start.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Remember I told you I thought I thought he had directed the 7-Ups and Bullet.
Right. Yeah.
But he had not because he did do the French Connection.
Right.
And he did do To Live and Die in L.A.
Right. Yeah.
And the reason I thought that was because Bill Hickman was the guy that did the car chases, was the one that coordinated the car chases for all of those movies.
Right.
So he's got a very specific way of doing car chases where they're just very frenetic and they all look the same. So that's why I thought he had done those other 2 movies for Friedkin, but Friedkin wasn't even involved. He wasn't even freaking involved.
Yeah, when I remember when I announced that we were going to do William Friedkin's movies, and that's the first thing you said. That's the first thing out of your mouth.
Bullet.
Car chase. Bullet. Yeah, so you had the right idea, just the wrong movie.
But no, it was the same as Bill Hickman, the guy that
But
did
the
all the
same,
coordinated all the
yeah,
car chases for those
coordinated.
movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
He's a stunt coordinator.
right, yeah. Well, tell you what, why don't you start? Give us
You
your
want me to
number one.
start?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Number one, I don't think any of his movies came close to the specific impact and the skill that he put the movie together as The Exorcist. The
Mm-hmm.
Exorcist is my number one.
Okay.
And it is horrific. It is terrifying. The subject matter just keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's a slow burn. And again, by the end of the movie, oh my God, you've bitten all your nails off. So it's just a really entertaining horror movie. And again, just the whole premise is just horrific,
Mm-hmm.
and they treat it very seriously,
Mm-hmm.
so it seems very real.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so again, as far as horror goes, it doesn't get any more horrific. I think the remake of Dawn of the Dead had a little girl that turned into a zombie, and that was kind of the same kind of terror. A child, being this horrific creature,
Mm-hmm.
demonic creature. Yeah, wow. And again, I had forgotten the great performances put in by that cast. I'll tell you one thing, and this is true of Lumet, and this is true of Robert Altman. They really know how to put an ensemble together.
Oh yeah.
As far as pick a good cast that really works well together. And wow, yeah. I mean, I totally forgot that. Oh gosh, now I forgot his name. Was the detective in that?
Lee J. Cobb.
Lee J. Cobb. Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
Lee. I was thinking Lee. What's it? Lee J. Cobb. Yeah,
Yeah.
from Our Man Flint and,
Right. Yeah.
on the waterfront. I got a back a tender.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about. Lee J. Cobb was wonderful as the detective in that, and of course Max von Sydow is the priest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just candy watching it. Just very wonderful performances. And the doctors, they're all just. We have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
We've never run across this before. What the hell? Literally.
Exactly. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Now I
Um,
heard that they're making another movie with Linda Blair coming back and the woman that played her mother, Ellen Bernstein.
Ellen Burstyn. Yeah.
Yeah. I had read something about that like a year ago, that they were going to do a sequel, a follow up. So
Yeah. Actually, I think it might be out already. Actually.
is it out already?
I'm not sure. I may be confusing. I know there's a prequel to The Omen that just came out, called The First Omen. But yeah, I think there is another Exorcist movie coming out.
Well, and they brought the father back that took the demon into him at the end of the movie. They brought him back in part 3, I think it was, with George C.
part
Scott.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah. The the first sequel, not so good with Richard Burton.
Burton.
But for the third one, yeah, they brought Jason Miller back. George C. Scott. Yeah, George C. Scott takes on the Lee J. Cobb role in that one, and that one was terrifying as far as sequels are concerned. There was a couple of prequels made. Actually, we'll talk about that one later.
Your Exorcist movie show.
Yeah.
What was your favorite Exorcist movie? There's only 20 of them,
Exactly. Well,
Exorcist, the Mexican version.
It probably is. So it's funny that well, it's not. Anyway, it's interesting that your number one is The Exorcist. I flip back and forth between that one and my number one, but I finally settle on it. And my number one is The French Connection.
Okay. I
Uh,
actually tossed back and forth between those two as well. There's two
and
best films.
yeah, yeah, and one of the reasons for that is probably because this is the one that I saw first. This is the one
Yeah.
that I remember, and it was before I was really aware of directors and stuff. It was just like, yeah, we go to see the movie, but I knew who Gene Hackman was. I knew who Roy Scheider was, uh, and I actually read the book that the movie's based on, the Robin Moore novel,
Mm.
and the whole thing is actually based on a true event, a true incident, one of the biggest drug busts in New York history. And so Gene Hackman, up to that point, Gene Hackman plays a real life character. He plays a character named Jimmy Popeye Doyle, who's a fictionalized version of the real guy. The real guy, actually, both Hackman and Roy Scheider play the characters they play are based on real detectives, and the real
Right.
detectives are in the movie.
They're in the movie. Yeah.
They're
You
in the
can see
movie,
them.
yeah. In fact, Eddie Egan, and not just as a cameo, but as a character. Eddie Egan,
Yeah.
who was the real Popeye Doyle, plays like the captain, like their captain.
Yeah.
And his partner,
Russo.
yeah, Russo. Well, his real name was Sonny Grosso. He plays an FBI, one of the FBI agents that are assigned to the case. Yeah, in the movie he's called Buddy Russo.
Yeah.
And so they changed the names to protect the guilty, I guess, or the innocent, however you want to look at it.
And then they put the guys in the movie.
And then they put the guys in the movie, yeah. And Eddie,
can we be in
Eddie,
this? Can we be a character in this?
yeah, and Eddie Egan actually he went on. It was kind of like the Lee Ermey story. He was supposed to be just the technical consultant, and then said, yeah, you want to play this character? He's like, yeah, okay. So he comes on, he plays the character, and the acting bug kind of bit him, and he went on to do a few more movies after that. Usually playing the tough, playing cops or whatever. But the movie itself, and again, movies in the 70s, I think audiences had a lot more patience back in the day. We didn't need the adrenaline rush every 5 seconds, like today, where it's got to be action or whatever. You could take your time to tell a story. You could take, and this one doesn't have a lot of action, but does have one of the best car chases probably ever filmed, like you mentioned there at the beginning, directed by Bill Hickman, and that's one of the standout set pieces in this movie, where Gene Hackman is driving like a maniac, chasing after the bad guy,
Smashing into other cars.
smacking, yeah. And apparently, for a lot of it, Hackman was actually driving the car, and driving it. He wasn't driving slow either. They said, no, it's got to look realistic. And I think, putting the camera like right in front of the car, where it's the POV, and then you're like in the moment. So yeah, it's probably that's probably the one thing that I actually do remember about that movie, is that chase. But yeah, like you said, not a happy ending. The bad guys, actually, the main bad guy does get away.
He does.
They sort of unintentionally, I think, set up a sequel, which there was. It was a French Connection 2. It was still pretty good. Not as good as the first one, but and I saw it. I don't remember what happens at the end, if they actually catch the guy at the end or not.
Same here. I saw it a long time ago, and I've completely forgotten it, so it's forgettable. Whatever happened, it was forgettable.
Yeah. This one, the ending is like, because you have this at the end. You have this is what happened to these people after like the two detectives get reassigned out of narcotics, and like the main bad guy, this French. We really don't even know what he is.
Charmaine,
Yeah, he
played by Fernando Rey.
Fernando Rey. Yeah, kind of a very slick, cool looking villain. I gotta
Yeah.
say. So yeah, so that was my number one. I just like I said, it narrowly beat out The Exorcist for the number one slot.
Well, we can skip number two because that was my number two, was The French Connection. So you can tell me what you thought about The Exorcist, though.
Okay. Well, as it happens, yeah, that is my number two film. And what I want to do now, Miss Renee, is I know this guy, a friend of mine, is a radio personality here in Victoria, and he actually did a phone interview with William Friedkin back in 2013. So 10 years before he passed away. And so this is just a snippet where he's talking about casting for The Exorcist. And so, Renee, can you play that for us, please?
The cast is like perfect. The cast was given to me by the movie god. You know, they're all synonymous with their roles, and that doesn't happen often. Think of those people even today, and you can see them in The Exorcist. So I was very fortunate in getting a great story and being able to cast it that well. The studio wanted, for the part that Ellen Burstyn wound up with, they wanted Audrey Hepburn, Jane Fonda, or Anne Bancroft. All great choices. For one reason or another, they didn't work out. And then Jason Miller and Linda Blair had never been in a film before. And I met them quite accidentally.
And I was reading the story about, both of them came to you and sought out those roles. Well, with Jason Miller, it was basically, him telling you, William, this is me. You have to cast me because this is me.
That's exactly right. Well, he had studied for the priesthood. He studied for 3 years at Catholic University in Washington, and he had a crisis of faith, like the character in the film. The cast is like perfect. The cast was given to me by the movie god. They're all synonymous with their roles, and that doesn't happen often. Think of those people even today, and you can see them in The Exorcist. So I was very fortunate in getting a great story and being able to cast it that well.
Okay, you can
The studio wanted, for the part that Ellen Burstyn wound up with, they wanted Audrey Hepburn, Jane Fonda, or Anne Bancroft.
Can you imagine Jane Fonda in The Exorcist?
Yeah, it just kept. I think it was there were The Exorcist. It made sense that it was like there was a ghost in the machine. So
Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah, Audrey Hepburn in The Exorcist. Now I can see. What was the third name you mentioned? Anne Bancroft.
Anne Bancroft. Yeah, Bancroft could have pulled it off, but she could have.
No,
done
the Ellen Burstyn, I think, did a really excellent job.
She did
as a mother, and of course Linda
job.
Blair, who apparently was pretty traumatized for years afterwards. She said that it really got in her head, and really kind of messed her up for a while. And I didn't know that about Jason Miller. I didn't know that this was his first role, and that he had studied for the priesthood. So that was fortuitous casting. Also, the voice that you hear that's Joseph Fryer, and he's the guy that put this together. Was asking the questions. Now this is part of a longer piece. This is like
deliver a message.
Yeah. So
there's a couple of voices. There's a British voice a couple of times.
Yeah.
And then, like when she's on the bed tied down, it's that gravelly kind of. Let me just get loose here.
I don't remember who did the voice, the demon voice. Shoot, I should have written it down. But another actress, another well-known actress, did that voice. And also he used little subliminal. There's like a flash of this very demonic looking face, which if you look at it, you look at the still frame,
kitchen scene.
And so that adds to the just the queasy feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is one of the scariest, one of the darkest horror movies. And you're right, it is a slow burn. It takes
Mm.
its time getting there, but once it gets there, holy cow! Once you get to the exorcism with
Mm.
Max von Sydow and
Next one, Saito.
yeah, and Jason Miller, so and you know the special effects. They hired a magician. When Regan, the Blair character,
Mm.
is floating, they were like, okay,
Mhm.
how do we do this? How do we make it look absolutely real? And so they hired a magician and said, okay, here's how you do it. Here's how you do the floating woman trick. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, okay. And so they did that, and that's why it looks so real. And of course, later on in Ghostbusters,
Mhm.
they copied it and put their own little spin on it. Um, so yeah, it's again, it's a very influential movie. I mean, there's, like you said, uh, a lot of there were in the I believe it's either 80s or 90s. It's in the 90s. They said, hey, let's revisit this story and do a prequel about the young Father Marin and how he became the Exorcist.
Mm.
So the first version was shot by Paul Schrader, and the studio said, yeah, no, because he approached it more like the original, a slow burn. There wasn't this big sort of, and they're like, no, no, we gotta have a lot more action. We gotta have a lot more blood and guts. Where's the exorcism? Where's the demon? And so they scrapped that one and completely reshot it with another director, Rennie Harlan,
Oh.
and they had a lot of the same cast.
Mm.
Uh, they brought him back, but they had, like I said, it became much more conventional, like horror movie, which is what they wanted. Now we want a
Mm.
horror movie, not this intellectual thing that Schrader had done.
So does the Schrader thing still exist? I mean,
Yeah, that's
can you
a
actually
good
find
thing.
it?
Yes, they somehow people found out about it and demanded to be, kind of like the Snyder cut with Justice League. They said, we want to see what Schrader did, and so eventually they released it on DVD, so you can get both versions.
Mm.
And honestly, the Schrader version is much better. But I can see why the studio were like, yeah,
We
it's
want
not
body count.
exactly.
We want
Um,
scares. We want body count.
yeah, so I thought
It
that was
doesn't
kind of
have to make
interesting.
sense.
Yeah, that there's two different versions of the same story floating around out there. Um, so anyway, so
And this
yeah,
is
so
the
that's
story told by the person who was possessed.
yeah.
And this is Father Schrader's, or Father, what the hell's his name? The father,
Oh, Marin.
Marin, Father Marin's story from his point
Yeah,
of view.
yeah.
Well,
Um,
now you piqued my interest. I might want to look up the Schrader version and see what it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
And I might want to see the other one too. What was the movie called? The
Uh, I'd have to look it
Exorcist: The
up.
Beginning,
Actually, I think that's pretty close.
something like that.
Something like that.
All right.
I'll send it to you in a DM. I'll let you know, or we'll look it up on IMDb later.
Okay.
Now I I remember I never I gotta admit I never saw the movie in the theater because just the trailer alone freaked me out. I thought, oh no, this is way too scary for me because I was young. I mean,
Same here.
I was a kid,
Same here.
and I thought, yeah, no, I'm gonna skip this one. I finally saw it years and years later. We had a film club at,
Mm.
at our college, and for one Halloween, they said, "Hey, we're gonna have a marathon of all these horror movies." so all these older horror movies like Night of the
Mhm.
Living Dead and all those, and the attraction was
What was the
uh,
title you just said?
Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, the original,
It
the
sounded
George
like you
Romero.
said, I wet the bed. Kind of like I spit on your grave. I wet the. I missed that one. I wet the bed. What?
I wet the bed. Yeah, very very rare Italian horror movie.
Somehow, Night of the Living Dead. When in my ear is I wet the bed.
I may have mumbled that.
The
a little
horror
bit,
of a child growing up.
yeah.
I wet the bed.
The bed.
And the
Yeah.
monster under the bed. Not happy.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so yeah, Exorcist was the big attraction. So I finally saw it on the screen, and yeah, the drive home was fun. So
Hope you didn't have to walk down any stairs.
no stairs. Thank goodness. Yeah, but it was still
It's a good thing they made it before Joker, because he'd been dancing on the stairs when the father comes tumbling down.
What the heck is going on? Okay, so we're
right.
up to number 3. So what's your
number three? Yeah, we're gonna have to have a part 2. No, the night they raided Minsky's is my number 3. I'd never seen it before until this week. I got to be honest with you. I absolutely hated Brett Eklund because she's one of my least favorite Bond girls. I hated her in The Man with the Golden Gun. I thought she was annoying. I didn't like her performance. So that was the only thing I could base, that she had talent, was seeing that character in that movie. And now it dawns on me, she was supposed to be annoying. That was the whole point of that character. They had never had a Bond girl who was an annoying mess. It was just a pain in the ass. So,
right, yeah.
I now have, a couple of weeks ago, we did The Monster Club, and she plays the mother in The Vampire Story, and she's adorable. And in this movie, The Night They Raided Minsky, she plays this Amish girl who wants to be a dancer on the stage. And she's like Something About Mary. It's like they all fall in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
And this was an absolutely totally delightful film. It was around the same time they did Cabaret.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a whole subplot about Minsky's being this burlesque show, which is more like a vaudeville show in 1925. So, you had the comedians, Jason Robards and the other guy who were playing the comedy team.
Mm-hmm.
They had dance numbers. It was a variety show. It wasn't, stripping. And that's the whole story of this. Is it's the first time a woman ever stripped as a dance on stage, and it turns out, ironically, to be this Amish girl who went in there to totally oblivious to that whole kind of mess. And that's why they raided Minsky's, because she accidentally drops her top, and after a dance where she pulls her gloves off, she rips her dress up the side, and the crowd totally is going nuts. And then she goes too far because she slips, or I can't even remember why it was she dropped her top. But and beluga, we see, a nice body double. And again, this is 1968, so it's a surprise that we even have the nudity in that one shot. It's just the one shot. Again, just a delightful comedy. Dr. No, for crying out loud. Joseph Weissman is in it, and he plays a Jewish father. He's hysterical. He's like the best part of the movie. He plays Elliot Gould's dad. And I keep looking at him going, that's Dr. No. So, here we have these two Bond characters in this movie. And again, it's just a delightful romp. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'll be honest with you. I saw Deal of the Century, which we're going to talk about later because it's a dishonorable mention.
Okay.
I watched that before I watched this one, and I watched The Brinks Job. And I was like, after I saw The Deal of the Century, I was like, this guy cannot direct comedy. This is terrible. And then I watched The Brinks Job, and I was like, oh, okay, this one's a lot better. This is a much better cast, and it's much better. And then I watched The Night They Raided Minsky's. It was one of the last films that I watched, and I was like, this is so delightful. I am really enjoying the hell out of this. So, yeah, very, very well done. He did the thing with the changing black and white photographs to real life action a little too much, but other than that, it was a thoroughly enjoyable little comedy. And again, the musical numbers and the routines and stuff totally were engaging, and you felt like you were getting a real piece of vaudeville burlesque humor.
Yeah. So it wasn't all doom and gloom with with Friedkin then.
They do raid the Minskys at the end of the movie, and they pull everybody out into the police wagon, and the girl's Amish father gets pulled out last, which is the best part.
Yeah,
he gets swept up in all of it. He comes to take her home, and they end up getting arrested.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a kind of a comical dark ending, or not a happy ending, but a comical, not a happy ending.
Yeah.
You laughed about it.
Yeah. Well, that's that was that era. You were starting to push the boundaries, starting to push. Like how much can we show here? How much, and I think that's probably before the ratings, before the MPAA started doing ratings. 68. I don't remember when the rating system
Very possible
came out,
because I know there were a few movies at the time that had frontal nudity.
Yeah.
So, and in which case, in most cases that would get an X rating. But
right. Yeah.
But this one I don't think was an X movie. It might have been R.
Probably.
Just for that.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty clean otherwise. I mean, even the dance routines, they're pretty fully clothed.
Yeah.
I mean, they show some leg, but and shoulder.
Yeah, we saw that in some of the Marilyn Monroe movies we talked about. So you kind of expected that. Cool. All right.
What's your
number three? So my number three. Oh, I think there you go. So my number three was To Live and Die in L.A.
Okay.
Another action thriller.
That's my number 4.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I like
and for the record, I was working in a movie theater when this film came out, and I absolutely hated it when it was in the theater. When I saw it in the theater. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But watching it here this past week, I was like, you know what, this is a really good movie, and it deserves props. And I'm a much more grown up person now than I was then. I didn't like the fact that the good guys were worse than the bad guys.
Yeah.
And I hate becoming invested in a character and rooting for a character only to have him taken away from us.
Yeah. I know what you mean. So for those of you who don't know, To Live and Die in L.A. is about a Secret Service agent played by William Peterson.
This was the movie that put him on the map.
It was actually his first starring role. He had been in an earlier movie, but this is like his first major role.
Yeah.
And of course,
because he did Manhunter after this.
Manhunter, yeah, it was like,
and then went on to do CSI.
CSI, right, yeah. As a matter of fact, in that interview with William Friedkin, he talks about that, how he gave Peterson his first job and so on, and discusses certain character developments that happens and why why that happens. And Peterson agreed to it. He said, "Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that." And Willem Dafoe is in the movie. He's the supposed bad guy. He's a counterfeiter that Peterson's character is after.
Very young Willem Dafoe.
A very young Willem Dafoe. Yeah.
Yes.
You hardly even. I mean, to look at him now, to look at him then, you're like, "Damn, William, what happened?" No. What was I going to say? Well, one of the things that Friedkin says in this interview, when it's toward the end when he's talking about the movies, he says that what interested him was the thin line between good and evil, especially between like law enforcement or cops and robbers.
Right.
That there's that the line between somebody who's good and somebody who is it's very thin, and that you can cross over at any moment, given
Yes.
the right circumstances, and you can see that in his movies, that there aren't, even going back to the French Connection, the character of Popeye Doyle, he says these racist terms, he's a sexist, he drinks a lot, he's not a good guy, he's not pure in any way, but his motives and his instincts are I don't even want to say pure, but he thinks he's doing a good thing. He's going after the bad guys. He's going after these drug dealers. But doing it in a way that you were like, yeah, I don't think that's proper police procedure. I don't know. If
Well,
this was,
and you could say that and Bullet were probably the two that set the bar, as far as police cop dramas.
yeah,
For the 70s and the 80s, and the Dirty Harrys and the
Right,
stuff that came after.
yeah, the more morally gray,
Yeah.
and you can see that even in television started to adapt that with Hill Street Blues, for example, and NYPD Blue. The cops weren't just weren't always the heroes, or
Crooked cops.
There's some who could be on on the take and still be a main character in the story, and I think that kind of began with the movies, not just with Friedkin specifically, but so anyway, so yeah, Live and Die in LA. Also, probably one of the coolest scores by
the soundtrack I loved at that time. I went out and bought the record for that movie.
Yeah,
because the soundtrack by Wang Chung was
Wang Chung,
so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Freaking cool.
Yeah.
So I listened to the hell out of that thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm making money.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that one, the Wang Chung score for Live and Die in LA, and the two scores that Queen did were probably among the best pop rock, because Queen did Highlander and Flash Gordon.
Oh, I didn't realize that Queen did the Highlander. I knew they did Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize they did Highlander. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. The song Who Wants to Live Forever, that's from Highlander. Princess of the Universe, and a lot of other songs. Yeah. So those two, and then Wang Chung comes along, and it's like,
knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, I remember when they started playing the theme on the radio. It's like, I know that song. Yeah. So, all right. So that was my number 3.
That was my number 4.
So
we've talked that one through.
Your number 3 was
The Night They Raided Minsky's.
Okay.
And then To Live and Die in LA.
Okay.
So now we're on your number 4.
So, all right. So my number 4 is Sorcerer.
Okay. Didn't get to see this one.
Sorcerer.
Tell me what you liked about it.
Okay. Well, first of all, this movie is actually, it's a remake of a French movie called The Wages of Fear. And to be completely transparent, I gotta say, I like the French movie better. I think it's the better movie. But that aside,
The what of fear?
It's called The Wages of Fear.
Oh, The Wages of Fear.
Yeah. With Yves Montand. And really the only thing that the two movies have in common is the basic premise. This group of guys who have to transport this incredibly volatile and dangerous cargo of nitroglycerin over this rough terrain, ridiculously rough terrain, to put out to cap an oil well fire. And that's the only thing the two movies have in common.
Okay.
But Sorcerer, I think it's Friedkin talks about how difficult this movie was. He wrote a book called The Friedkin Connection, which was his memoirs. And he mentions that like half the crew and half the cast got sick. I mean, they filmed it like in South America.
Yeah.
They actually went out and filmed it in the jungles. And everybody
This was his
suffered.
Apocalypse Now.
This was his Apocalypse Now, exactly. Yeah, good analogy. This is exactly what it was. Yeah. Roy Scheider comes back as a character named Scanlon. The characters this time in the original movie, they're just all these out of work guys. They're just unemployed, and so they take on this mission as part of almost like a lottery, you know. And it's a suicide mission, and they know it. In this version, the guy it's more like the Dirty Dozen, except it's 4 guys, and they all have this criminal past. Some are actually still on the run, and so they said, you know, hey, what the hell? We have nothing to lose by taking on this mission of transporting this nitroglycerin, this dangerous stuff that's gonna explode at any second. And yeah, I mean, you can see, I mean, just the cover shot that we saw is one of the big moments of the movie, where they have to cross this rickety old wooden bridge across this ravine, you know, and they're just driving it inch by inch, and you just feel, you know, that any second this bridge is going to collapse, and it's swaying, and like the car chase in French Connection. This is the money shot. this is the one that everybody remembers if you've seen the movie. And the title, which I think is one of the things that confused a lot of people, because they saw the movie, they saw the title Sorcerer, and they thought, oh, it's, you know, either they said, oh, is it about magic, is it about whatever, and didn't want to go see it because they thought it was a fantasy film. The name is actually the name of one of the trucks in the movie. So why they didn't call it something else, or use the original title of call it Wages of Fear.
The Wages of Fear. That was a freaking decision right there.
Yeah. So yeah. And so yeah, it was a bomb. It didn't do very well for a lot of reasons.
I was reading up on it so that I could talk about something if we came to it.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons they said they felt it didn't connect was because Star Wars came out at the same time, and everybody was going to see Star Wars. So it was like, oh my God, this is when we release our movie. Wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, 19.
Yeah, everybody was going to see Star Wars 4 and 5 times. Sorcerer.
Right. Like what's that? What's that about? What? Guys in a jungle? What? Yeah. Well, that was one of those.
What was the Dynamite movie? What was the Ennio Morricone, Sergio Leone, James Coburn Dynamite movie? It was like, I'm gonna get you, sucker, or something.
Duck, you sucker.
Oh, Duck You Sucker. That's what it
Duck You
was.
Sucker.
Duck You
Yeah,
Sucker.
yeah,
So here
yeah.
we got
James
basically the
Coburn
same thing.
and Eli Wallach. Yeah,
Volatile nitroglycerin.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I hope to see it someday.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, does it have a happy ending?
Uh,
I laugh because I know the answer already, even though I've never seen it.
no, it does not have
It's a William Friedkin film.
exactly. It's not. It does not have a happy
Roy Scheider gets the money, and they all tiptoe away to freedom, and
and they all live happily ever after.
they all blow up. They survive. They all go to jail.
Yeah,
I nailed it,
exactly.
didn't I?
You did.
Funny.
But it's a good movie. I mean, it is a good movie. I think it's very intense. It's definitely a white knuckle, edge of your seat thriller, and that one scene alone with the truck on the bridge is worth watching. Just incredible.
I could probably find that on YouTube. Okay, bridge scene, sorcerer.
Problem. Oh yeah. All right. So that was.
Well, it sounds
So
like
that
it
was
segues into my number 5 beautifully.
okay.
Because my number 5 was the Brinks Job with Peter Falk. Hello. Excuse me, pardon me.
Yeah.
And again, Falk is so likable in whatever character he plays, you know. And
Yeah.
again, he and his ragtag band of guys that he knows, you know, Warren Oates and a bunch of other character actors, they decide
Yeah.
they're gonna take on the Brinks armored car company
Yeah.
and do the heist of the century, and they pull it off, and they get
Yeah.
caught.
Yeah.
And they still end up going to jail, even though you know they can't. That's the funny thing is, you know, they all pretty much say, "Look, you know, we're not ratting on each other. We're not going to tell you anything," and you would think they would get off, you would get away, you know, with lack of evidence.
Nope.
But the end of the movie, yeah, they're carting them off to jail.
Yeah.
You know, and the crowd outside like the courthouse is just going nuts for them, like they're Bonnie and Clyde. You know, I mean, ooh, yeah, you guys are great. You're fantastic.
Yeah.
And you can see on you know their faces, especially Peter Falk. Hey, I'm liking this. I'm going away for 14 years,
Yeah.
but I'm liking this. And when I get out in 14 years, I'm going to be a billionaire or a millionaire.
Yeah. Yeah. There were. Yeah. You could say. Well, I'll just say yeah. That's my number 5 as well. So.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Great cast. Peter Falk, Peter Boyle, Warren Oates, not Danny Aiello. Who's the other actor? Shoot. Paul Sorvino.
Oh, that's right, Paul Sorvino. Yeah.
A small role from Gina Rowlands as his wife, as Peter Falk's wife.
Yeah.
Just a terrific cast, and Sheldon Leonard as J. Edgar Hoover. Sheldon Leonard, the guy who created Gilligan's Island,
Yes.
is in this movie as J. Edgar Hoover, and again, it expresses Friedkin's theme about the thin line between the good guys and the bad guys.
The good guys are likable, or the bad guys are likable, and the good guys are a-holes.
Yeah. And what surprised me, you know, I mean, the movie takes place in 3 different time periods. It starts off in the 30s, and then the robbery itself is in 1950. And there's this great scene where Peter Falk breaks into the Brinks building, and he puts on this flour bag or something, this burlap sack over his head, right? And he's expecting all these, you know, locked doors and alarms and everything, and he basically just breezes through this building to the vault, and he's like, what the hell? You can just walk right in. Uh, like the first time you see, he follows one of the trucks into the building, and there's this guards. They're just laying around, and they got their shotguns and everything. But it's like, and he goes into the office later on, pretending to be this auto parts salesman, and there's like money coming down the chute, and the guy's like, okay, he's like so nonchalant. He's like dumping this money into one of those mail bag, bags and all this stuff. And then they go to lunch, and the office is wide open, and just like, this is crazy. There's absolutely no security in this place. And so, yeah, he and and like you said, his ragtag band of ne'er do wells walk in and rob the place. You know, I love the scene where Warren Oates is explaining his plan of using a bazooka to shoot to blow the safe open. Yeah, and he's got it all figured out, right? And he's like, and it'll penetrate here, and then we can do this and do that, and they're all looking at each other like, you want to use a cannon to blow up? Well, not a cannon.
Well, and they've already established. They showed a couple of scenes where they had some other heists with safes.
Yeah.
And, the first one shows very intricately how he's taking the safe apart so they can get into it, and they just get the door open as the cops show.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
the second one, they decided to just take the safe with them. Paul Sorvino is like, lift it up, take it with us. It's like, oh yeah, you're gonna lift it. You are. We're gonna do that with my bad back.
Yeah, but they do. They drag it out, throw it out the window, almost kill Alan Garfield.
They have the shot where the truck is pulling up to their place, and the wheels are the back of the truck is basically touching the wheels.
And then they open up the safe, and they get like chump change for their trouble. And
yeah,
because his brother-in-law is a bit of a dim bulb, played by Alan Garfield. Although I think he has a different name in the movie, but
yeah, he's a good character actor. He's done a lot of stuff.
Great character actor. Yeah, just a little dim, just a little not entirely with it. The scene where they're robbing the candy store, literally robbing a candy factory, and there's a door and it says "Do not open," and of course he opens the door, and all these like gumballs come flying out, and Peter Falk just goes off on him, like, get out of here!
Do not open.
Get out!
What do you not understand?
Exactly. But yeah, that's a fun movie. It's
yes.
Again, a little more lighthearted than a lot of his other fares. So, all right. So we weren't too far off with our selections.
Yeah. Well, it appears that all of our top fives are the same. We had the same 5 movies on our top 5.
Yeah. Well, except for Minsky's.
Okay, that's right. You didn't have Minsky on your list.
But that's one of my honorable mentions. So it was the night they raided Minsky's. So.
What was the fourth one, or what was the one that you had on your list that I didn't?
Sorcerer, I think.
Oh, Sorcerer. That's it. The one I didn't see. Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
All right. So honorable mentions. We got just a couple of minutes here. Rules of Engagement and Hunted, both with Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Not great movies, mind you, but entertaining. Entertaining stories and action, and again, and Rules of Engagement is a fine military courtroom drama. They didn't quite go all, you can't handle the truth, but but yeah, you get kind of the same thing going on.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson with that one.
Cruising.
Oh, Cruising.
If you are homophobic, do not watch this movie. Okay, because it gets really seriously gay when you go into the clubs and stuff. Man, oh man. I was working in a movie theater when this movie came out, and my friends and I were all cringing about it at the time, because it was that time. It was I guess the late 80s.
Yeah.
And they were trying to do a kind of a different spin on Serpico because it had Pacino in it.
Yeah.
The ending is kind of weird. Yeah, you're not quite sure if the killer was caught or not. And that's all I'm saying. For the same reason, Jade, which came out a little later, again, very slickly put together, very executed and presented, but yeah, it's like, well, wait a minute, did she do it? Oh, wait a minute, did he do it?
Yeah. Well, Jade was supposed to be the movie that was going to kickstart David Caruso's big movie career.
He looks like hell in that movie.
Didn't
Absolute
work.
hell.
Yeah, he went running back to TV quickly after that.
Me thinks cocaine does age you too much.
Yeah.
Because he looks like a redheaded Steve Buscemi in that.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about young Steve Buscemi.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Think about Cruisin'. Apparently, afterwards, according to his memoirs, he and Friedkin and Pacino had a major falling out over that movie. He felt that he had nothing but good things to say about Tommy Lee Jones. He said, "Oh, yeah, that's a great actor. He's prepared. He listens. He's ready." Pacino, not so much.
I come to work on time.
Yeah, he wouldn't come. Yeah, exactly. He wouldn't come to work on time.
I don't come to work hungover.
Yeah, exactly. And so that he did two movies with him, like you said. Like you said, he did two movies with him. Which I think The Hunted is actually the better movie.
Pacino.
But yeah, apparently he and Pacino just did not get along. And
that's the only one they did together, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so probably for that reason.
You don't know what you're doing.
That's probably a lot of that. Yeah, I can imagine that.
You have no idea what you set up here around me.
You're no Scorsese. Now there's the director. Anyway. I totally forgot what my honorable mention. Well, Night They Raided Minsky's, that one. Oh, one of his last movies that Friedkin made was an adaptation of the Caine Mutiny court martial.
I refuse to watch that because why? And again, he did 12 Angry Men too. Why?
Yeah. Well,
what the hell?
I gotta tell you, I really liked it.
Now, who was Queeg in that? Kiefer Sutherland or something?
Kiefer Sutherland was the Queeg. Yeah.
The strawberries. It's always going to be Humphrey Bogart for me and the strawberries.
Yeah. The comparison to Bogart is inevitable, but and the whole thing takes place pretty much in the courtroom. It is a courtroom drama, and there's maybe one scene toward the end
except for the car chase,
except for the big car chase at the end where Sutherland's
I'm gonna catch you. I'm gonna get my strawberries.
Yeah,
I'm driving on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I would recommend it. I understand your reluctance, but yes. Give it a watch. Give it a watch. See what you think. You might like it. You might still hate it. I think Sutherland is a great performance. If you can get Bogart out of your head, Uh, uh, really good performances from a lot of
All
young
right.
actors. So yeah, I, I s- wasn't gonna. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it or not, and I was surprised. You know, for a movie that is 99% basically people just talking, it's riveting. It's really riveting, and you know, wondering, okay, who's telling the truth here? You know, whose version are we going to accept? You know, I mean, if you've never seen the original with Bogart, uh, I think you would be fascinated by this version.
Okay. Fair enough.
So
My dishonorable mention. Please avoid this movie like the plague. Is
yeah,
Deal of the Century. Um, Chevy Chase trying to make arms dealing funny.
hmm
Uh, it does have Sigourney Weaver in it, and she's the only saving grace of it. But Gregory Hines and Chevy Chase just don't do it for me in that one. And I don't know what kind of message he was trying to get across with that, but it wasn't funny. It was supposed to be funny. I know it was supposed to be funny, but it wasn't.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's
Most
supposed
of the
to be
jokes
more of a
misfired.
dark.
Do you see I went there?
Ah, I saw what you did there. That's actually funnier than the movie. Well, it's supposed to be kind of a dark comedy, more of a
Yeah,
than anything. But yeah, it fell flat. Yeah,
it's got like a 12% rating on Rotten Tomato meters, and there's a reason for that.
yeah, yeah.
I said, go ahead and give it a look. You might be surprised. You know, Friedkin's done some other good movies. He's got some other good freaking movies. Uh, but I'm gonna milk the shit out of that joke. I'm telling you right now, up to the
Okay.
very end credits. But yeah, that's my dishonorable mention. Don't even waste time.
Okay.
It's time you'll never get back.
Yeah. Okay. Um, want to mention one more honorable mention, and that is The Guardian, uh, another horror movie that he had done, and I think this is the movie that you were alluding to when we talked about this movie that Charlize Theron had done, where she hires this babysitter to take care of her kid, you know, and said, well, does she sacrifice him to a tree or whatever? This is that movie. This is the movie where this new mother hires
I
this
remember this
nanny.
conversation.
Yeah, she hires this nanny who turns out to be some kind of like devil worshiper or whatever demon,
Oh jeez.
that's going to sacrifice the baby to this evil tree god or something. And it's not up there with the Exorcist as far as scary, but it has its moments. It has its moments. If you can overlook the sort of 70s, early 80s
The premise
cheesiness
is
of it, the
horrifying,
premise, but the premise is yeah, it is terrifying.
and it's a
And
Charlize Theron, so it's a newer one.
no. This is not the one with Charlize Theron.
Okay,
Uh,
all right.
this is a different cast, and it's called The Guardian. If you want to
And I
look it
did
up.
not see The Boys in the Band. I couldn't get that one either.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
that was one of
never
his
saw that one
earlier
either.
ones.
Yeah. So,
But again,
but anyway,
if you
so that
like
was
if you like the William Friedkin ones that you watch, you can look for that freaking movie too.
because he had a lot. He said, yeah, up to that point, yeah, he had 19. But he's done about 20 movies altogether, 21 movies. One of the last ones he did was also, which we didn't mention, was Killer Joe with Matthew McConaughey. That one, holy cow! Talk about dark.
Matthew
Uh,
McConaughey. All right.
yeah, yeah.
Well, there you go.
He plays this Dallas policeman who moonlights as a hitman.
You know what? By day, I'm a policeman, and I don't like to kill people. That's just the way I
Exactly,
roll.
exactly.
That's just the
And
way I roll.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, it'd be cool if you did. Yeah. Uh, so anyway, So yeah, so that's
That was an amazing impression, Manny. I just want to say, seriously,
Well,
because
he's from Texas,
he's from Texas, so
so
it's not
naturally
fair,
he's going to
I
get it
know, but
right.
yeah.
it was amazing. I just had to tell you that.
Thank you.
Well, Rory, you get like 100 and something of them, you know.
He gets
Exactly.
one.
I get one. Come on, give me one.
All right, all right.
It's
All
because
right, all
I'll tell
right,
you
all right.
why. It's the Texas thing, but Manny also embodied like the subtle creepiness, like you know, like he kind of like
Okay, I'm
yeah.
good now. I'm good now that you said that.
Because Rory, you're playing Matthew McConaughey as too straight, kind of, you know. But there's an underlying creepy factor.
Well, I'm trying to get Matthew McConaughey's coolness, man. All right.
Right, that's where you're lacking. You're not. You gotta channel your
And I got
Elvis,
the,
the Elvis swag.
and I get the what do you call it? Subtle creepiness.
Subtle creepiness.
Yeah, like the
creepiness.
undercurrent of
The
you're not
undercurrent
really
of
sure if he actually has committed crimes or not. You know.
All right, all right, all right.
There you
Playing
go.
the
Yes,
bongos
yeah.
in the middle of the night.
There it is.
At least you think could be human skulls. You never know.
This is so great. Yeah, Rory, if you do it like Elvis, but then do Texas, then I think that's what I'm picking up on.
Okay.
I'm trying to be Matthew McConaughey in those car commercials. We might just be living in a dream. Maybe not. That's life.
Who does the parody of those?
Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey does the parody of him doing the car commercials.
Yeah, and really, he's a good impressionist as well.
He is. He's an awesome impressionist.
Yeah, he goes for the more exaggerated
face.
Yeah, he's got that rubber face. So, yeah. All righty. Well,
all right, next week.
So next week, we have a special guest. Miss Panarea will be our guest next week. And we'll be talking about somebody that we already mentioned earlier, and that is Al Pacino.
Al Pacino!
Yeah, and we may not be talking about cruising again.
We talked about that last week, man.
Heading in there.
Oh, it's one of my favorite movies. Really?
It's probably going to be your number. It's probably going to be your number one movie. Just because we never know. With
on the leather. Why am I doing a Spanish accent? She's Greek.
I don't know. She's French. She's French Canadian.
Greek.
Or Greek.
She's Greek.
Well, Greek and French, and I don't know. So many things. She's multi.
Al Pacino.
Yeah,
all right.
Al Pacino. Hooah! Yes, that's right.
Hooah!
Ah.
I know what we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about.
Say hello to my little friend.
That's right. Yeah. So, all right. So there you go. Al Pacino next week. Panarea will be our guest.
Don Pacino.
And
burn that. Don't let anybody see it. Somebody actually put that on the social media like TikTok without the scene where he's talking to Adam Sandler afterwards, saying, "Burn that. Don't let anybody see it." And I was like gassed. I was like, oh my God, Al Pacino sold out. He's doing coffee? I thought it was real. And then I saw it again the other day and I was like, oh God, this again. And then I saw the scene where he's talking to Adam Sandler afterwards. So how was that? How do you like that? Burn it. Don't let anybody ever see that. I thought he had sold out. Anyway, we'll talk about that with Pan next week.
Yeah. All right. So until next week, adios, muchachos. Thanks for watching this episode of Two Guys and Sometimes a Gal Talking About Movies. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell to get future episodes.